Hello there, peeps. Celine here, and we're going to. That's annoying. We are doing Elyasia chapter or Elyasia Arc 0, which is the prologue, or you can call it like the book 1, but it's basically a prologue of Elyasia because it is happening before Arc 1. For another example, it's similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they did Arc 0 that Yami Yugi was literally an evil spirit inside Yugi. It was a it was the dark prologue to Yu-Gi-Oh. I think it was only like 2 to 3, maybe 2 to 3 episodes. I'm not really sure. I didn't watch it, but it's similar to that, except it's 10 chapters in my case. But we're on chapter 6. We are literally halfway done with arc 0, meaning soon we'll be doing arc 1, which I only got 13 chapters of arc 1 written. So we will be so these videos where I'm reading out the chapters, well, I'm doing the text to speech reading now because my reading the words are getting too complicated for me because I use a AI to help me flesh out the text per se. But anyways, let's start with this part.
Lynn rested in her library, surrounded by numerous books as she slept peacefully, nestled among the soft cushions of her favorite reading nook. The shelves were brimming with knowledge, and the scent of aged paper filled the air. Some volumes lay open to sections discussing the final wishes of the deceased, their pages filled with poignant tales and ethereal insights into what the departed longed for in their final moments. Meanwhile, other books featured chapters dedicated to dragons, their majestic forms and magical abilities captured in vivid detail. Lynn had been deeply engrossed in her studies, delving into the intricate magic of Elyasia and uncovering its unique desires, fascinated by the lore that intertwined the realms of the living and the dead.
I know he keeps pronouncing Alicia wrong, but then again, it's an AI, so I'm not really concerned about it. But oh, I gotta fix that. I didn't notice that. I gotta fix that. Anyways, she's doing research on Alicia for the twin. I think because of the dragons. Moving on to the next chapter or the next section.
Upon encountering the twins, who were born from their mother's deep longing for her deceased partner, Lynn found herself uncertain about the magic involved in their arrival. However, the mere sight of the infants sparked her curiosity about the other wonders this realm might hold. Although she had studied the documented history and the facts available, she soon realized that after just 1 year, very few truly understood Elyasia. Nevertheless, she dedicated 4 extensive years to poring over every book in her tower as well as texts from across the lands. After the gathering with the twins, many events unfolded. The young princesses convened with their mages, along with Lynn, to designate names for the northern and southern mountains. They decided to call the northern mountains Mont Sin, a name that Sin appeared to accept without objection. Meanwhile, the southern mountains were referred to as Mont Hii, a name that left Lynn puzzled. When Lynn inquired about the reason behind Hii, Kiram merely smiled and replied, "I like that name." This response didn't clarify anything, but the mage chose to move on and continue with life. The dragon conflict, which had concluded 24 years ago, showed no indications of reigniting. In fact, Q and Yu appeared to have ceased their own fighting. Specifically, Q had stopped inflicting pain on his twin brother without cause. Lin and Rain speculated that this change might be due to June, as that particular mage seemed to have some influence over her own mate, something the two girls couldn't quite comprehend.
Meaning, June controls her mate. In the whole sense that the female holds the male's male area when married. It's more along those lines, except it's more keen to Kieran or whatever. The Black Dragon is terrified of his mate. That I never truly get into details about. But then again, he can actually get her to consume. Not to consume. Can get June to do what he wants by being pervertic. But she's actually the more dominant one in their relationship. Even though it doesn't look like it, it actually looks like he's the dominant one. No. June is the dominant one of that relationship. Lin and Yoon have they're not really dominant of each other. They coexist. Rain and Max is actually more dominant than Rain, because Rain doesn't care. And for Sin, she's not made it, but she would be the dominant one. Unless there's a guy who can dominate her fiery spirit. Oh, God. Okay. This is going to be a long one. Yeah, I'm doing it in sections to, not go too fast.
Yu entered the tower, letting out a quiet sigh. He had just returned from his explorations, carrying a bag filled with books he received from Sin. The man with grayish-silver hair strolled through the tower before making his way to the library. His golden eyes widened in surprise upon seeing his maid dozing with her books. He shook his head lightly and placed his bag on the floor. Lin. Back at it again. The mage quietly mumbled to herself, her voice barely audible, as she shook off the remnants of sleep. As she straightened her posture, several books tumbled off her lap and landed with soft thuds on the floor beside her. She lifted her hand, fingers gently pressing against her eyelids, as she softly massaged her eyes to dispel the lingering fatigue. With a slight furrow in her brow, she peered around the room, trying to gather her thoughts. What day is it today? She wondered aloud, the question echoing in the stillness, as she sought to anchor herself in the present moment. The dragon pondered for a moment before responding, "It's 2 days following the new moon." Lin glanced at him and offered a gentle smile. "It's good to see you again, Yu," she said quietly before rising to her feet. With a simple incantation, she tidied up the books surrounding her. 2 days following this month's new moon. She exhaled softly. "So that means it's the 16th of Yula." He nodded in agreement, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "Indeed. But I'm puzzled as to why this month is referred to as Yula. Isn't it called July in the human world?" he inquired gently, his voice barely above a whisper as he leaned back against the wall. He often contemplated both Elyasia and the human realm, feeling a sense of duality within himself, as they only perceive him as a human, completely unaware of the rich history and identity he carries from his true origins. She let out a deep sigh, the weight of her words hanging in the air. "It's the princess's fault, you know." It was entirely their suggestion. As she approached him with a measured pace, her expression a mix of frustration and concern, she continued, "They genuinely believed it would assist the people in moving on from the war and the difficult times we've all endured." Pausing directly in front of him, Her gaze searching his face for answers, she leaned in slightly and asked, "So where did you wander off to this time? What could have possibly drawn you away from everything going on here?" He gave a nod and then smiled gently, a warmth in his expression that suggested he had enjoyed his recent adventure. "This time, I took the opportunity to explore the vast and mysterious demon realm. It was quite the experience, filled with sights and sounds unlike anything I've encountered before. Sin, knowing how much you appreciate literature, requested that I bring you some intriguing books she managed to acquire during my journey. She thought you would find them particularly fascinating, as they contain insights and stories from that enigmatic world." Lin pressed her lips to his softly, the warmth of the gesture lingering between them. "I'm truly relieved that you're all right, especially since that dimension can be so perilous and unpredictable, filled with dangers lurking at every corner." A slight smile appeared on her face, a mix of joy and concern reflected in her eyes. "I'll make sure to express my gratitude to her later, perhaps with a note or a small token of appreciation, to let her know just how much her efforts meant to me." He felt a gentle warmth creep into his cheeks from the kiss, his heart fluttering in response, and offered a small, shy smile that seemed to reflect the joy he felt in that moment. "I can tell," he said softly, his gaze lingering on her. "I intend to be with you for some time, enjoying every moment we share, before I eventually wander off again, as I often do. But for now, I want to cherish this time together. I would enjoy that very much, as it sounds like a delightful experience that I would truly appreciate."
So yeah, that was just a window of what Lin and Kieran or Yoon have. Cause I have it that Yoon for Lin would wander off gathering relics and ancient texts from the different realms that he can enter, by the way. Because he can only enter the human realm and the demon realm. He can't enter the spirit realm or the shadow realm because those two are at this current point unknowns. Because I don't know what animes to base them on. But so to help her out, he'll progress through the demon world for this sense, the demon realm, to find any ancient texts about the realm. He even writes down notes about what's happening while he's journeying and such. Because he, as a dragon, he's actually more of a scholar than than anything else, which is very strange because he's a black dragon. But he's also a scholar who's made it to a mage, who's technically classified as a high mage, because there's going to be other mages in Elyasia. There's only going to be a select few high mages slash sages, because she's technically classified as a sage or a high mage. Okay, now we're going to be in the Northern Lands, West Garden, because we were technically in the Middle Lands. Now we're in the Northern Lands, West Garden. There is no Southern Lands, apparently. Okay.
Lyra was seated in the quaint garden at a little white table, sipping tea while observing the staff planting roses in various hues. With no tasks at hand and her teachers tending to the portal to the spirit realm, she found herself at a loss for activities. She had no new reading materials since Lin had not sent anything recently, and without Rain or Max, visiting her sister wasn't an option. She let out a gentle sigh, feeling a sense of boredom wash over her. Suddenly, something unusual occurred. A panther, tinged with red and comparable in size to a wolf, approached and settled next to her. Its crimson, feline eyes gazed up at her, mirroring her blinking as she glanced down at it. Um. Hi there. She inquired, feeling somewhat puzzled. It isn't typical for a yokai to approach her unexpectedly like he did. Takumai. You appear to be feeling lonely. It remained a mystery how she was aware of the cat's name. She blinked a few times before letting out a quiet giggle, causing the panther to tilt its head. Although she recognized from its voice that it was a male, that wasn't the source of her amusement. What truly made her laugh was the expression on Rain's face. After returning from her portal inspection, Rain observed something unusual. She made her way to the west garden and paused, her eyes widening at the sight of her princess alongside the panther. The presence of a red-tinted one was uncommon and strangely didn't seem quite right. The panther glanced over, his deep, soulful eyes reflecting a mixture of yearning and resignation, and let out a gentle sigh that seemed to carry the weight of unspoken thoughts. I have no intention of harming the princess, not in any way. My only desire is to engage her in conversation. The mage sighed deeply, her brows furrowing as she approached with a determined stride. Lyra, didn't I specifically warn you against conversing with yokai, knowing full well the complications and dangers that could arise from such interactions? Lyra softly hummed. True, but Takumai doesn't seem like a bad person. Actually, he came over because he noticed I looked lonely. Oh, I truly apologize for our actions, Max expressed while embracing the princess's shoulders. We needed to investigate the portal, or else something terrible might have happened. I understand, she replied gently, resting against the dragon. She was aware that he belonged to her mage, yet he was the sole male permitted to come into contact with her, as she was without any guards. The dragon rested his chin on her head and glanced at Rain. My dear, I'm not sure I can leave our princess unattended once more. Not until Taro arrives, or until she manages to find a guard before that. The princess blinked for a moment. Maxie, is Taro the purple dragon you introduced me to a few years back? She inquired while softly stroking Takumai. Takumai let out a contented purr at her touch, a sensation that felt unusual to him, as no other woman had ever elicited such a response merely by making contact. He tuned out his surroundings, focusing instead on the way her hand moved gently between his ears as he leaned into it. Rain heard the panther purring and let out a quiet sigh while Max and Lyra discussed the purple dragon. Neither the princess nor the panther appeared to be aware of it, but the mage was. She observed them for a moment before softly clearing her throat. Lyra glanced over, her eyes wide with curiosity, and blinked slowly as she noticed the unusual expression on Rain's face. Is everything okay, Rain? She asked, concern lacing her voice as she leaned in slightly, trying to gauge what might be troubling her friend. The mage let out a sigh. Lyra, you've discovered your initial guardian. Did I really? She nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. You unknowingly laid claim to this rare panther, a creature of such mystique and beauty that few ever encounter it. It seems he has chosen you as his guardian, wanting to protect you fiercely, even without fully realizing the depth of his instincts or the bond that has formed between you. The girl with dark hair gazed down at the crimson-tinted panther that was looking back at her, and they both blinked for a moment. Afterward, she smiled and asked, So, Takumai, are you all right with that? After contemplating for a moment, he agreed with a nod. Of course, just continue to stroke my fur. She chuckled gently and agreed with a nod. Of course.
Okay, I see the little error I put. Just continue to stroke my purr. Yeah, okay. There are some errors. Like, when did Max show up and hug her? I think there's a sentence missing here and there. Because he didn't speak, so how would she know that he's a male for one? Then yeah, I said right here that Rain returned, but I never said that Max returned with her. Is applied that he returned with her, but other than that, there's no indication that he did. So I would have to edit this, which is fine. This is Taku's human form, by the way. Uh oh, she's also going to get her fox. Fine, I'll do one paragraph at a time. I'm gonna be asked
As
about
winter
it.
arrived, several months went by. Snowflakes drifted down across the landscape while Lyra gazed out of a window, taking in the scene. She had grown fond of the pristine white snow, as it reminded her of the times she and Kira would create snow angels and frolic in the chilly weather. However, neither she nor her sister could indulge in such activities anymore due to the responsibilities of being a princess. Still, Lyra didn't feel the need to play in the frigid snow. Simply observing it descend was captivating enough for her.
So, before we continue on, you're probably wondering why I don't upgrade the girls to queens of the regions. Because it is technically two queendoms, the north and the south. But however, I don't like that term. I don't like queendoms, and I don't like the term queen. That's why they say princesses. There is no queens. No, I could do this.
Takumai approached her from behind and wrapped his arms around her. "What is it about you that makes me feel your loneliness?" he inquired gently. In his human guise, Takumai stood tall, sporting short red hair and striking red, cat-like eyes. He consistently wore black clothing that offered no clues about his identity. He was known as the healer of the northern lands. The extent of his knowledge in white magic, especially for someone resembling a panther, remained a mystery, even to Rain.
Okay, the constantly going back and forth, back and forth. I'm just going to read out the best of my ability. Never mind.
She reclined against him, letting her body relax into his warmth, a gentle smile gracing her lips as she spoke. "I'm not feeling lonely, you know. I'm just reminiscing about my past, the moments that shaped me and the experiences that linger in my mind, each one a thread in the tapestry of who I am." "Do you have any intriguing tales or captivating experiences you'd like to share with me?" he inquired, wearing a gentle, teasing grin that suggested he was eager to hear whatever stories might unfold. She shook her head slowly and gave his arm a light pat. "No, but what about the fox?" He let out a quiet sigh. "His recovery is taking longer than usual. It appears that someone intended for this man to die." After a moment of reflection, she let out a sigh. "I'll reach out to Sis and see if she can inquire with her fox about this. Also, who would want to harm a black fox?" He blinked slightly. "Princess, are you not aware?" She spun in his embrace and gazed up at him. "What do you mean?" A voice spoke up, saying, "You have a nine tails, a rare black one, unlike any I've seen before. Its sleek fur glistens under the light, and there's an aura of ancient power surrounding it, making it truly exceptional." Takumai glanced over as Lyra pivoted. They both blinked, and then Lyra slipped out of his embrace and dashed toward her sister, wrapping her in a tight hug. "Kira, what brings you here?" Lyra inquired after the sisters had finished their embrace. Kira smiled gently. It seems that Rain informed us about an injured fox, and Akito here expressed a desire to see it. Positioned behind the southern princess was a young man with flowing silver locks and feline purple eyes. He wore a dark kimono adorned with gentle blue patterns on its elongated sleeves. Although he observed the northern princess, he remained silent. His feelings towards Lyra weren't negative. Rather, he simply held a disdain for the northern territories. Lyra inclined her head. I understand. Akito is also a fox. But could you explain what you mean by my fox having 9 tails? She inquired gently. Both Takumai and Akito let out a deep sigh, their expressions heavy with the weight of their unspoken thoughts and shared experiences. Princess, your fox is an uncommon black 9-tailed creature, Akito remarked. His tone was chilly, but it lacked any malice or offense.
It's going to get into details, but Akito is a cold-hearted fox. And he actually has no, he may not have any hatred towards the North. He just doesn't like the North. He has nothing against his sister or the princess or anything. He just simply doesn't like the North. But I like making him a cold-hearted. I'll do right this 3 paragraphs.
Akito is telling the truth. The fox you discovered is, in fact, a 9-tailed one, Takumai remarked. The princess with dark hair paused for a moment, then took Kira's hand and led her down the corridor, steering her away from the men. She guided her sister toward the chamber where the fox was housed. The girls entered a room decorated in shades of black, silver, and gold. The aesthetic was quite appealing and appeared to match the fox's clothing style, as he wore a black kimono paired with silver shorts, and the kimono featured gold embellishments all tragically stained with blood from his severe wounds. On the king-sized bed rested the short-haired male fox, his face tinged with a slight redness due to a fever he was experiencing.
He's wearing a kimono. I guess there would be shorts too.
Doesn't he seem a bit different from a 9-tails? Lyra inquired gently, glancing at her sister. I'm reaching out to you because you have a more keen insight when it comes to foxes. Kira nodded in understanding. I understand. My expertise lies with foxes, while yours pertains to panthers. She gazed at the slumbering fox, examining it for any distinguishing features. Approaching the bed, she extended her hand and lightly brushed the soft black fur of the fox's left ear. She blinked in surprise as she noticed not only his high temperature but also his remarkable strength. Carefully, she withdrew her hand and took a step back.
Also, I don't know why he's jumping back and forth, up and down the page to go with other words. It just does for some reason.
The sister with dark hair observed and blinked. Sister. The blonde glanced at Lyra. Hey, sis, you've got a 9-tailed creature. And he's more powerful than Akito. A growl echoed before arms encircled Kira. Keep your hands off another fox. Lyra gazed at the fox and blinked. Shiro is more powerful than Akito. And still ended up this injured. Akito let out a low growl as he stood behind Kira. Strength isn't the only thing that matters. I can sense that he was affected by something even more powerful. With that, he tugged Kira out of the room just as Takumai entered. The panther nodded thoughtfully, his gaze steady as he approached his beloved princess. Lyra, rest assured, your fox will be fine. It will just take some time. Quite a bit of time, in fact. Healing is a process that cannot be rushed, and while it may feel like an eternity, patience is key. Trust that with care and attention, he will eventually recover and return to your side.
Okay. I did hint that there was going to be a bad guy in the story, but I never touched back on this. Never. At least as far as it goes, I may hint at it later that there is someone affecting certain males, but I can't do what Otherworld did with Naraku. I suck at that shit. But I think I may hint at something else. But yeah, strength isn't everything, but something else affected him. What is it that would affect a powerful nine tails? Well, just fly out a nine tails fox. Because nine tails are actually the most powerful foxes there are. But there are some things that could be more powerful than them. Like how cats have catnip. Something like that could be a problem. I don't know. But anyways, let's finish up the chapter.
He was indeed correct. Shiro took several more days to fully regain consciousness. Lyra was present, engrossed in a book, when he transformed into his fox shape. He informed her that he would recover more quickly in that form. She acknowledged him with a nod and remained at his side, which he appreciated. On New Year's Eve, Shiro made a decision that displeased Takumai. As a gift for the new year, he vowed to protect Lyra and kissed her. Following that kiss, loud screams erupted from the room as Takumai launched an attack and then healed the fox. Meanwhile, Lyra went to the library, her cheeks flushed a deep shade of red.
Yeah, like how Akito is Kira's first guard and later becomes her mate. Takame, although he is not going to be Lyra's mate, he is unfortunately very, very protective of her because he is the first guard. Lyra mates with her purple dragon, and unlike Kira, does not have children. I'm gonna come scroll up because that's annoying. I'm gonna have to fix that. But that's fine. So yeah, that is chapter 6. There are a few errors, but it's fine. I will probably end up fixing one of the errors, just not the assuming part, because at the end of the day, does it truly matter? I don't know. Those who can write better than me, let me know if I need to fix that the max section. But yeah. Next chapter will be chapter 7. Yay. There's no one shot. No, wait. Because after we finish Arc 1, go to one shots. We'll have 2 one shots. Okay. One shot if I ever write it to go with it. Because I'm not writing any of this. I'm not reading out any of the sexual ones. You'll just have to come to the site to read them if they're written. Because if I get this one written by the time we finish it, I'll have this one up and then these two up, or these two done. I don't know what. Is there a chapter these two can go? I know what chapter this goes with. Sometime between 2 and 9. Anytime while the fox is gone. Sometime after chapter 8. Okay. So yeah, that's all in arc 1. So yeah. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 more chapters to go before we are done with arc 0. So leave me a like, a comment, a subscribe if you haven't. If you have any, if you saw any errors that I didn't see, you can let me know in the comment section below. If you have any pointers for me to fix the chapters, you can let me know in the comment section below, obviously. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.